Historically, San Antonio was at the heart of the early fight over Hispanic voting rights. It's why today we have single-member city council districts. Now the Mexican-American Civil Rights Institute has a symposium underway with virtual speakers and discussions. Jesse DeGollado spoke to two of the organizers about how the struggle for those rights has happened both then and now.
The civil rights protests of the 50s, 60s, and 70s were radical departures from how many Hispanics were raised, or else they'd risk being physically punished in school.
Shh, don't get involved. Shh, mind your own business.
And even then, the retired longtime educator says, in spite of demonstrators challenging the status quo,
most people didn't even know that they were being oppressed.
Decades later, social injustice provoked recent worldwide protests. But with the Texas legislature taking on voting rights and how racial history is taught in schools, unlike back then.
A lot of activism was more in the streets, and now there are different ways to do that kind of work. Social media is a big player in this.
And perhaps more so in light of the latest U.S. Census data. Now the second largest in the country, the Hispanic population grew by 23%, compared to just over 4% for non-Hispanics.
Latinos are now a huge percentage of the population, and we cannot assert ourselves by denying who we are.
Especially with more now in elected office, Ruiz says it's up to them to help address issues important to the Latino community. He says the House Democrats in D.C. blocking changes in Texas elections are a good example.
I don't think that people are entirely complacent. I just think that we're dealing with a lot right now.
Otherwise, they say the anger and frustration of the early civil rights movements are still there to varying degrees, just more behind the scenes. Jesse DeGollado, KSAT 12 News.